Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My fiancé, 28 male, and I, 30 female, have been together for 3 years. I used to live close to work and used public transportation. But after I moved into his house, which is hours away from work, I bought myself a car since I'm a nurse and also since there isn't any hospitals close to where we live that I could transfer to. My fiance's car hasn't been working for close to 2 months now. It requires so much money to get it fixed, and he refused my financial help when I offered it. Instead, he would ask to use my car every now and then, and I agreed as long as it's when I'm not working and also since he uses it for trips to the supermarket, etc. On New Year's Eve, he told me he wanted to use my car to go hang out with his friends and celebrate, but I declined because I had to cover a night shift and needed my car to travel to work. He insisted and even suggested I take the night off or swap shifts with another nurse, but I couldn't do that last minute. I thought he dropped it then, but when I went into the shower and got out, I couldn't find him nor my car. I freaked out and started calling for half an hour, but he didn't answer. I tried again till one of his friends picked up. I demanded he give the phone to my fiancé, but he said they were out and confirmed that he took my car and told me that my fiancé said it's better that I skip my shift and he'll be back with my car later. I couldn't take it. I felt so enraged. I had my fiancé on the phone telling him I did not consent for him to take my car to go hang out with his friends and said I'd call the police to get it back if he refused to come back with it. But he didn't take me seriously, so I ended up calling the police and he and his friends were picked up at the bar where they were hanging out, then were taken into the police department. I got my car from there and still went to my shift. My fiancé was let go hours after I left, and he blew up my phone with missed calls and texts about how I was out of my mind to call the police on him and put him in this situation. I did not respond, but when I got off work the next day, we got into an argument, and he said he couldn't believe I'd do this to him, but I told him, he made me do this, to which he responded that I was petty and callous because not only did I ruin his New Year's celebration, but all his friends aren't speaking to him after I put them in this situation as well, and he then kept giving me silence about it. I did consider this a form of theft, especially since he went behind my back after getting a no from me, but he was shocked that I'd even implied that he was a thief and said, what's yours is mine and vice versa, so I shouldn't be using the terms theft and stealing. Not the a-hole girl. Why are you with a man who cannot take care of his own basic needs and insists that you call off work so he can go to a party? He's using you and you can do way better. Do not offer financial help to people like this either. He has money to go out with his friends. Then he has money for a car. Edited to add, his friends put themselves into this situation by getting into a stolen car. Do you really think they weren't all sitting around laughing at you before this happened? He got you to move far away from public transport and work opportunities into his house, refuses to fix his car, so there is only one between you. Didn't listen to your no, took your car without permission, endangered your job by forcing you to miss New Year's Eve shift when there is no way you could get cover, yelled at you when he was in the wrong, didn't defend you to his friends, is now giving you the silent treatment. No, you're not the a-hole, but your boyfriend is giving off some warning signs that you should look at very closely before marrying him. Not the a-hole for so many reasons. You're a nurse and not having a car would force you to miss a shift. You told him not to take the car. He did. You told him what would happen if he didn't return the car. He ignored you. And apparently, this makes you petty and callous. Lol, I don't think so. He ruined his own New Year's Eve celebration with his own entitlement and idiocy. In short, I'm glad you phoned the police. You would be well within your rights to make him your ex-fiancé. Not only does he not respect you, he is a dangerous liability by the sounds of it. Next story. My partner and I want a child-free wedding and it has caused a lot of drama. My partner and I have been to multiple friends' weddings where kids have run wild, screamed, cried, and threw tantrums throughout the wedding ceremony, which echoed and was the main thing you could hear. During some of the receptions, kids were running around and let loose, almost tripping servers carrying hot food or drinks as kids aren't watching where they're going and their parents aren't watching them. Throughout my life, I've always been sensitive to high-pitched noises. I often get massive headaches and can get nauseous after long exposure to them. At last weddings, I've had to take strong painkillers to be able to go through the day, which meant I wasn't able to have any drinks and had to stick with water. For our wedding, the same people will be attending. From our past experiences, we know that the same kids will cause the same problems as they did in previous weddings, which is not the kids' fault. Weddings aren't the place for kids. They get bored easily and they have to sit still and be quiet for an extended period of time, which can be difficult when you're young. We want a child-free wedding so we can enjoy our wedding. I can have celebration drinks for my wedding and don't have to spend the day medicated. Family is on board with this. Some friends aren't on board and say that if I won't invite their kids, then I have to pay for babysitters for them or they aren't coming. We're having a small wedding and can't afford to pay for babysitters for their kids. I just want to enjoy my wedding. Am I the a-hole for having a child-free wedding? Edit. If people can't come, we are 100% okay with it and won't hold it against them. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry you've decided not to attend. We totally understand and will miss you. I was at a wedding pre-COVID where two little brats unplugged the DJ equipment mid-first dance, then threw the cake table over and ruined the cake. Their parents did nothing until the bride had security show them out. And the mother went on a screaming tirade about the bride being anti-mother and women don't support other women cavalcade of crap. The bride billed her for the cake, part of the videographer, and asked for money for part of the photography because obviously there weren't any pictures of the cake cut-in, etc. Not the a-hole, not even a little bit. It's your day and you should be able to celebrate it without being in pain or medicated. Friends who can't see that aren't friends. I'm a bridesmaid in a child-free wedding next year. I have 3 small children. I plan on yeeting those kids with different family and friends, getting a hotel room for the night and having a grown-up night. It's a blessing for me. I fully appreciate that I'm very lucky to have a strong support system, but if I didn't, I'd either get a sitter or graciously bow out and send a nice gift. I don't get to dictate how others celebrate their wedding day. You have every right to have a child-free wedding, but don't be surprised if they don't come. A babysitter can run well over $15 an hour, and the bill for the day can be over $100. That stopped my family from going to a few weddings, and we sent a gift instead. Nope, hard not the a-hole. People arrange sitters in order to attend adult events, whether weddings or concerts or cinema, date nights, clubbing, or whatever. It is something completely normal for parents. That's not your responsibility as you did not birth those children. It's your wedding. You can arrange it however you want, and anyone who disagrees is free to skip it. But they actually do want to attend. They just want free babysitters out of it. Let them spend the evening at home with their kids instead of attending a nice event with free food and, I'm jokingly assuming, free bar. That's punishment enough, lol. Next story. My husband, 30 male, became the legal guardian of his sister's daughter, 17 female, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field. I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months ago into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field which allows remote work so that I'm not bored out of my mind. My sister-in-law was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorders like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he doesn't. Since I'm working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls on me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food I make, and most of the time, she ends up throwing food at the floor or at me. I'm at my wit's end, and it's just so emotionally exhausting. Around 15 December, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She is very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she is used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. I went up to my room and told him I'm not dealing with this anymore. He came home hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called me heartless and irresponsible. I told him I've had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I'm going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back and he told me that my stunt had forced him to use all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me and his family thinks I'm being extremely selfish. So I'm asking for judgment from impartial strangers. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Not the a-hole. Your husband likes being the hero, but doesn't have a clue as to how to do the actual work, so he just left it all to you. You have been sorely taken advantage of, and I don't think you're qualified to handle this level of need. Your niece needs expert help. By referring to your need for a break as a stunt, it's clear he views you as having had a temper tantrum, and he has graciously allowed you to get over your snit, but expects compliance from now on. It also gives a viewpoint of what parenthood will be. You do the work, he gets to enjoy the hour or two of happy, fed, and bathed child that he can play with and hand back. I'm going not the a-hole. Taking care of a child with special needs is a huge responsibility, and your husband took it on, seeing the same thing a kid does when he wants to adopt a pet. You're not heartless. You're doing your best with an extremely difficult situation. I'm so sorry about your miscarriage. That, in addition to this other huge life change, has been huge stress. Your niece deserves a safe home with people equipped to help her. You deserve space and time to heal, and your husband needs to look at the possibility of changing what he needs to in order to fully fulfill the responsibilities he's taken on. I'm sorry for his loss too. This whole situation sounds very, very difficult, and I hope you all come through it okay. Not the a-hole. This is a really difficult situation, but your husband lied and said he'd take care of her completely and then left it to you. You were unprepared for this level of taking care, and it doesn't sound like he gave you a choice at all. He accepted responsibility for her, and so he has to figure it out. Ultimately, it may mean that the relationship between you no longer works. Either way, there are some serious discussions that need to take place, and I wish you all well. Adopting a child is a 2 yes is equal to yes, and 1 no is equal to no decision, and he went ahead with 1 no. He also pulled a crappy move, claiming he would do all the work while immediately dumping his niece on you. You've given up your quest to start your own family in the meantime, and he calls you selfish. I would be contemplating divorce for how he has completely disregarded your concerns. Unilaterally made a huge decision that significantly affects you and your future plans, and attempts to manipulate you with guilt and other disgusting tactics when you don't fall in line. Next story. So I own a small hobby shop cafe. For the last year and a bit, we've had the cafe side closed, but occasionally rented out for private events. My husband and I decided we wanted to do a small New Year's Eve gathering, and we opted to host it in the cafe space after the hobby portion of the shop had closed for the night. We invited 3 close friends and their significant others, and one was bringing a significant other we have met a handful of times. About an hour before the get-together, he called us and asked if he could bring one more person, as his girlfriend was hanging out and had nowhere else to go. We weren't thrilled, just because we did want to keep it quite small, but we talked it out and decided it was fine. We were all hanging out and having a good time when a friend arrives with his girlfriend and my husband's ex. Now, usually this wouldn't be a big deal. Hell, my ex is one of our good friends, but my husband hates his ex for good reason in my opinion. She stole from him, cheated on him, and left him with 2 ill cats of hers with no contact to return them. He ended up putting over $5,000 of their medical care on his credit card before they were well enough to find a new family. He gave her over a year to get them back, and she ignored all contact attempts. As soon as she walked in, my husband froze up and then excused himself to the back room, so I pulled our friend aside. He's a newer friend, so had no idea his girlfriend's friend was my husband's ex, and let him know unfortunately she couldn't stay. He went to relay the message, and then she stormed over to me and told me she didn't care what issue I had with her, but unless I wanted to lose my job. I'll note here, I had been making drinks for folks and putting on an apron we kept in the cafe side with the shop logo on it. She would be staying. I asked what on earth she was talking about, and she said she knew the owner and would have me fired for being rude. I laughed in her face and told her I knew the owner too, and knew for a fact the owner thought she was a raging witch and to get out of my shop. But then my husband had come back out and headed straight to the door and held it open, gesturing for her to leave. She ended up having to wait out front for quite a while for an Uber in the cold, and her friend was pretty mad with us. And her boyfriend, he refused to leave, said they could get an Uber and do whatever, but he was staying. She ended up staying, as well as husband's ex was the only one to leave. But our friend thinks we were immature a-holes, and our friend said they had a huge fight about it when they got home, and we could have at least let her wait for the Uber inside. I probably would have told her she was welcome to wait inside, if not for her attitude with the get you fired thing. But after that, I wasn't inclined to be accommodating, and it was cold, but not freezing out. So I think it kind of is what it is. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your friend's girlfriend probably doesn't know your husband's side of the story, which is why she probably thinks you're the a-hole. But you did the right thing. If his ex was a nicer person and didn't use your husband when they were together, she wouldn't have been kicked out of the party. And if she didn't treat you with contempt on the night, she wouldn't have been waiting for an Uber in the cold. If anything, she made a fool of herself in front of your friends. So I bet most of them are more sympathetic as to why you both hate her. Not the a-hole. You were throwing the party. Why should you be forced to have someone there who your husband hates and makes him uncomfortable? I'm 100% sure the ex's friend, not because she knew was your husband's ex and didn't care and brought her around anyway. And she also knew where she was going, to her exes, and didn't care about his feelings either. Also, she was asking nicely to leave without causing a scene, and she turned it into a let me speak to your manager situation, causing more drama than needed. She got what she deserved. Not the a-hole. No one needs to cater to that kind of person. It's your space, and if you have an incoming a-hole into your space, you have every right to kick them out. What the others are saying doesn't matter. They didn't have to deal with your husband's ex's charismatic actions, so they're clueless. And who's to say what she could have done had she stayed? Only a-holes here are the ex who should have left when she realized the faux pas, unless she knew where she was going in the first place. And she's even a bigger a-hole for looking deliberately for confrontation. You had a small party with close friends and deserved to be comfortable and relaxed during the night. That's what I was thinking, that she coerced her way into being able to tag along for some reason. I'm sure she knew whose party she was going to and perhaps wanted the opportunity to make a scene or play victim.